would know, once your hit points are 0, you're dead. So it depends on how much damage things are cooking out. So we're going to go with, you look at how you run your damage charts, but generally, one gunshot should incapacitate anyone. That's your gaming criteria for systems, is that one gunshot should incapacitate anyone. So I'm going to give myself, as hit points, I'm going to give myself 10 hit points. Now, your average knife strike, usually like a knife stab wound, does 6 hit points damage. So by my scale, that means that I could be stabbed twice and be dead. Even though we've heard in the news that, you can get stabbed like 150 times and still not be dead. Moving along, we have your skills and weapon proficiencies. These two categories here, hopefully this one, will be the longest part of making your character sheet up. This is where you write down the things you have working knowledge of. If you have working knowledge of, say, first aid, and you think of yourself, if I came across a scene and there was a guy lying on the ground, how proficient would I be at first aid? As a percentage point, if I had 100% first aid, would that make me like a paramedic, or does that just mean that the paramedic's a different skill? So you isolate your skills. You have computer programming, you have HTML design, you have maybe lock picking as a skill. You can go through all the different gaming books and you can come up with all the different kinds of skills. That's why role-playing books are handy to have around. You sit around and go, I don't know anything. Well, do you know anything about botany, plant life? Well, yeah, I used to help my mom garden and stuff like that. Well, great. That means you've got some skills in botany. Do you have some skills in cryptography? Do you have skills with tactical movement? Do you have skills with plotting, tactical thinking? This skill sheet should go down. Each one you put a percentage point on. If you got a little bit of knowledge in it, you got 10% or 5% in this knowledge. But if you're lead hacksaw and you know what's going on, crank that sucker up. Never give yourself 100% in anything, because that means you're infallible and you can never be beaten. Usually in the role-playing games, they play them with different dice. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 20-sided dice. So what happens is with a percentage, you would run up a scenario, you'd put all your dice together and roll, and then that will it'll generate a number, and that number based against your skill point numbers plus the modifier provided by your general gaming master, and you determine whether or not you make the roll. The whole world of role-playing is essentially a glorified game of what if. And back in the 80s, all the crazy Christian institutions swore that before, like now you only hear about the video games being evil. Well, before there was the video games, there was these guys. There was the role-playing games, and there was many a book burned, and many kids wound up getting very heavily persecuted, yours truly amongst them, simply because we wanted to use our minds to escape reality, because we wanted to enjoy these worlds created. Now these games here, SLA Industries, Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, Dark Conspiracy, these are all games with a very much a cyberpunk feel to it. GURPS makes a cyberpunk book as well. And there's a few other ones. There's some ones that I have a copy of, one called Cult, which is very, very rare. Some of the games were made illegal because they had dangerous materials, enabled people to make characters that nobody should make. It's a very weird portion of history, and now it's largely forgotten because everything's gone into video games. But before the video games, I'd urge everyone to get together, make yourself up a character sheet so you can look at yourself objectively. See if your strength is low and you want to up it by working out, by doing cardio, by getting some skills in running. Weapon proficiencies. What kind of weapons do you know how to use? Do you know how to use a knife? Do you know how to use a gun? Do you know how to use a bow staff, nunchucks? What do you know how to use? You don't put you can put a percentage beside it if you like, or you can just note that you have it there. And going through there, you're able to look at yourself as a character in a story or in a book or even in your own life. And then from that, you can choose a character class, something you want to do, something you want to spend your life doing. Spend some thought on this. This is you. This is one of the few occasions you get to stand back and go, what do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to present myself to other people to be? Because nobody gives anybody any thought about that. Nobody gives themselves the thought to be, what kind of person do I want to be, not the kind of person they tell you to be. My name is Sean Kennedy, and I am the fucking man. Let's cut the crap. We can all sit around and pretend like we don't want to have a job, and we all can, sit around, pretend and cry about how shitty it is the core political has taken over the world. And we know it. I know it's very shitty that the core political has taken over. But we have to deal with this. You have three choices. You can either fight the core political, you can sell out to the core political, or you can wallow in your own crap. If you wallow in your own crap, that's useless. You're not doing anything for anyone. You just sit around, smoke weed, and just go, oh, well, what are we going to do? I'm going to work my crappy job, hate my crappy job, and there's nothing I can do to change anything, so instead I'm just going to subscribe to my magazines and listen to my music, and that'll be the end of me. And that's okay, because then you become part of a market as well. That's not what I'm about, and that's not what blogs are about either. You see, the point here is we have to change things. We have to change things in the world. We have to change the core political state. And how are we going to do that? The only way we can do that is to infiltrate them, to corrupt the corruptors. This is the idea. This is the whole concept. People go, you're selling out if you put on a tie. No, dude, no, you're not selling out if you put on a tie. You sell out if you put on a tie for the wrong reasons. You sell out if you put on a tie to buy into the lie. That's the problem, is if you begin to buy into the whole crap. You say, well, I got a nice car now, you know, and I got my wife and everything's nice. No. Now is the time that you have to stand up and fight. If you want to get yourself a good job, there's no crime in that. There's no crime in wanting a good job. What's wrong with wanting a job that you can be proud of? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't mean you have to sell out all your ideology. These people who have corporations that stand up and say, oh yeah, we believe in this doctrine and this dogma. When you go to the office, you bet it's just like going deep undercover. They've sent all sorts of operatives into our world looking for what's cool, little psychological tweaks they can do to make sure that they market to us. They can sell us the lie, to declare war on the mind share of North America. It's a nightmare what they've done. So that's fine. We can either hate them for that, which is we're going to do that. So we can either hate them or love them. I have chosen to hate them because I cannot forgive them for what they have done. How they have destroyed countless lives, how they've destroyed art, how they've destroyed our way of life, and the way of life of people who are peace-loving, concerned, gentle consumers. That is a terrifying thing to me. So how do we get back? How are we going to do that? Well, my fellow walks, I think the way we should get back at them is use the same tactics against them that they use against us. Let's infiltrate their companies. Let's infiltrate their places of work. Let's get on their little boards of directors. Let's get on the inside so we can take corporate information. I'm talking about espionage style stuff here and outing it. I'm not talking about overthrowing governments. Governments are fine. Let's overthrow the powers that run the governments. Let's overthrow the corporations. Let's get their personal and private data out on the wires. Let's broadcast that. Let's see how much we can actually screw up things if we actually learn the truth, if we get enough operatives inside their companies. What if we were to do that? Nobody's tried it. I think the Wogs could do it. I think you could do it. I can do it. My name's Sean Kennedy, and I am the fucking man.